Hi everybody, my name is Hannah and this is Pepper and Pine, and today I am joining Chrissy over at Raising Joyfulness for a collaboration on why we chose Waldorf education. Now, there are many reasons why I chose this educational philosophy, but at the same time, I feel that it is as good as any of the educational philosophies that are out there. I just had a strong desire to do this one. Now, maybe it's in part because I attended a Waldorf school when I lived in France, or maybe it's for other reasons, but I know that this particular philosophy is close to my heart, and though I may incorporate other educational philosophies into our homeschooling, I know that I always default back to the Waldorf philosophy. Now, it may come to a surprise as a religious family that we are choosing a curriculum that either is incorporating all religions and all spiritualities, or maybe incorporating a religion other than my own. But what I really like about the philosophy is that it is rich with spirituality, which means that these are these markers within the curriculum that remind you to add some form of spirituality into your curriculum. So whereas I may not use all of the resources that are suggested in the curriculum, I certainly will add in my own when necessary. Now, something else that I really like about the curriculum is that it really, or the philosophy actually, is that it really goes according to the child's development. Now, this is something that you see in other educational philosophies like Charlotte Mason or Thomas Jefferson education or Montessori or the classical model of education. You're going to see a lot of the same kind of markers, milestones throughout a child's development, and you're going to see the curriculum respond with appropriate lessons and subject areas in order to complement that development. Now, what I appreciate is that each philosophy will have its own take on what they think is appropriate for each of these different developmental stages, and how long or short the lesson should be, and how varied and how often. But the point is that these educational philosophies are doing something that I feel the traditional model of education does not, and that is looking at the child as from a psychological point of view, from a developmental point of view, and also recognizing that a child is different than an adult. So with the Waldorf philosophy, you're looking at 3 different developmental stages during your educational journey. So the first one is from ages 0 to about 7. And this is the time when children are in their imitation phase. Little children will do what you're doing, and they want to do it with you. And so what you will typically find in a Waldorf kindergarten, in the private school setting, is that the teacher is baking and cooking and cleaning and working in the garden and feeding the animals, and the children are doing that with her. It's also rich with stories and rich with festivals and rich with birthdays. All kinds of celebrations are part of the curriculum, especially for kindergarten. When you move into the ages of 7 to 14, you're looking at the emotional development of a child. And so the curriculum responds by bringing beauty at the forefront of everything that is presented. So instead of presenting information intellectually, it's given through something that is artistic or beautiful or story-driven, and through that, the information that's more intellectual is then delivered. So for instance, when talking about anything that's scientific, usually the first couple of lessons in a Waldorf curriculum are going to address 2 things. One is the human aspect, the human relationship between you and whatever subject matter you're studying. So for 4th grade, the unit on man and animal, the very first lesson is on the human being. It's on the person, the head, the limbs, the trunk, and it goes through and explains what each of these are for. and what is unique about them compared to the animal kingdom. And my favorite part is that when you look at the comparison between the animal kingdom and human beings, the one thing that really stands out are the use of our arms, our hands. And the Waldorf curriculum says that that is for giving and doing for others. And I really love that approach because you're just not going to see that anywhere else. And it reminds the student that that's what you are here to do, is to help others. Now then it goes into the different animals, and it explains whether they are head animals or trunk animals, and I really like that kind of presentation of that subject matter. And of course, it's done in a very beautiful way through stories and through art. Later on, when you are moving into the 9-year change, or that's around 4th grade, you're looking at the child who is in somewhat of an emotional turmoil. This development before 9 and then through 9 is pretty significant for a child. Now, this is usually the time where they can reflect on their past. It's also usually a time in the Waldorf curriculum where the past tense verbs are introduced, whereas they are not introduced before that age. It's also a time when stories are delivered to really reflect the inner sentiments of the child at the time. So whereas the child who is 9 feels lost and trying to find himself, the stories in the curriculum also reflect that, and it's a comfort to the student. When you're moving into around 5th grade, around 10 years old, 11 years old, this is a really lovely, wonderful time. This is a time where the 9-year change has finally settled down, and it's right before pre-puberty where things start to get chaotic again for a child. It's a time where children want to know the epic stories, the Roman and Greek gods and goddesses, the Vikings, all these really epic tales of the past. It's a great introduction to those lessons for the 10-year-old child. Geometry is also introduced at this age, but it's not like the geometry that you're thinking. It is so beautiful and so artistic, it really touches the heart, and at the same time you are learning a lot. Then you're moving into the transitional stage where things start to get a little bit chaotic for the child. The limbs start to extend, they start to get gangly, it's a bit of an awkward time, and it's also a time where true history is introduced, where historical facts and people and events are introduced rather than the mythology and the culture and the religion that has been introduced so far in the block that is reserved for history. Now finally you can find out about Caesar and the Middle Ages, and then the Renaissance, and finally the Age of Discovery and the Americas. So I really like this transition throughout the grades, and it really matches the development of the child. Finally, you're getting into junior high, where the critical thinking capacity for the child is finally developing, and that's when a lot more intellectual work is given to the child, the young adult at this point, including algebra, which is reserved for the 8th grade student. Now, I really like the progression of lessons, the subject areas, why they are chosen, how they are chosen, and the stories that are included in the curriculum in order to really help that child match his development and really allows that child to have a sense of well-being. These are some of the reasons why I chose the Waldorf curriculum. If you are inspired by choosing this curriculum, I would love to know your reasons why down below. And if you want to join this open collaboration, go on over to Chrissy's channel and let her know. All right, thanks for watching.